Over time, after the initial, hey, The Phantom Menace was pretty good, people began to re-evaluate it and concluded that they were so excited to return to the world of Star Wars that they were just in denial about it disappointing their expectations. But boy, it didn't help its sequel one bit. In fact, due to the mixed reception its predecessor got, George Lucas didn't want to write this one himself. Yep, it seemed George always gives the first film a crack before realising, hey, maybe I'm not cut out for this writing malarkey. He brought in Jonathan Hales, who had written episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles but was completely new to writing feature films. However, Lucas had already written 2 drafts of the script at this point, and it was Hales' job to improve it. That's right, the dialogue and writing that the world hates about this film was actually the improved version to what we would have got had George himself busted out the typewriter once again.
Of course.
But if you think The Phantom Menace was hated, oh boy. Roger Ebert enjoyed its predecessor but claimed Attack of the Clones didn't have a single line of memorable dialogue. Ewan McGregor himself criticised the saber fights in the movie and also ripped on the dialogue, and in reference to the heavy green screen and CGI work, he stated he wanted more and more control over what we see in the background. After 3 or 4 months of that, it just gets really tedious, especially when the scenes are, I don't want to be rude, but it's not Shakespeare. The fans hated the love story and the acting. It won 2 Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Supporting Actor for Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, and Worst Screenplay, and it's often listed as the film in the trilogy to completely skip. To his credit, this film takes place a decade after The Phantom Menace, and Anakin is now somehow magically the same age as Padme, again played by Natalie Portman, which wouldn't be that much of an issue if it wasn't for the fact that Christensen is actually older than Portman in real life, and she still spends the majority of the film pretending he's younger and mentioning it every time she gets.
My goodness, you've grown. You've grown up. Don't try to grow up too fast.
But I am grown up.
Padme is now not the Queen anymore, but just Senator. I guess she got demoted for some reason.
That's impossible, isn't it?
And they're under attack by Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee, with an army, leading to the Jedi compiling clone soldiers to defend themselves. What I do admire is that this was in reference to a single line that Lucas had written over 20 years earlier in A New Hope.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Fair play, old man, fair play.
Of course.
I'll give the movie this much. It tells you right off the bat what to expect. Almost the entire film is shot on a green screen, and it looks awful. The CGI is terrible, and not a single thing looks real. Do you buy for a single second that Yoda is really there? Is he a real person? Can't you just get lost in how real he looks? I have no comprehension for how Back to the Future Part 2 has practically the same setup here, and they had better special effects over a decade earlier, and this had George frickin' Lucas funding it. I mean, does this look serious at all? It looks hilarious. So much action doesn't hit because of how silly it looks. A lot of the time it looks like an episode of the Looney Tunes, not the biggest sci-fi franchise in the goddamn world. It must have just been the most single boring acting job ever. Show up to a studio and look at nothing and react to nothing. None of them seem like a genuine place. It's a joke. Now, Hayden Christensen actually defended their use of green screen.
You know, that process is challenging in that, you know, you don't really have any environment to interact with, but, you know, at the same time, I think that it almost aids the actors in a sense, because if you did have a way of you know, tangibly bringing those environments to a set and you know, have the actors actually work in these, you know, these locations that don't really exist, I think you know, we would be distracted by it and a little too in awe of the absurdity of everything that was going on around us. And, you know, this is our world, and we should just take everything, you know, for granted as normal.
But surely filming on location would add the wonder and charm and actually test your acting more, because you're having to act like it's normal and like you're not blown away. YouTubers use green screens. This movie actually looks like a YouTube movie. Honestly, if you remove the big named actors, I would be convinced that a YouTuber made this. I know they used some in The Phantom Menace, but it was nowhere near this extent. It's almost the entire film, and it looks like a parody movie. Sometimes it looks like a damn video game. But hey, look, they used real grass. And look, there's a real location. They used it in the first one, but still it's a real location. This scene is supposed to make Anakin look like a badass, but when it looks this fake, it's just funny. Shut up, Annie, and drink your fruit shoot. How are you going to have a CGI Muppet dance around with Christopher Lee and expect us to take it seriously. Just got an image of Christopher Lee on set fighting thin air. Just look at this action. It just looks so real. My God, I hope they win.
This is not looking good at all.
I'm just amazed at how they managed to make Samuel Jackson, who plays Mace Windu, this boring. One of the coolest actors in Hollywood, and he doesn't do anything until nearly 2 hours in. He looks bored throughout the entire film. In fact, everybody does.
You're impossibly outnumbered. I don't think so.
Well, you are. It's basic maths. Most fans were, however, thankful that Lucas listened to them and significantly cut Jar Jar Binks' role down in this one, so that's a plus.
Army! This is so smiling to see you, sir!
Good to see you again, Jar Jar.
No, it's not. The love story is often cited as one of the worst love stories in movie history, and honestly, I have to agree. So bear in mind that the events of The Phantom Menace take place over just 1 week, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's been a few weeks. It's then been 10 years with Padme and Anakin not communicating whatsoever.
I haven't seen her in 10 years, Master.
They then meet up again for the first time in a decade and...
My goodness, you've grown.
So have you. Grown more beautiful, I mean.
And he'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine.
So let's bang! Anakin is the creepiest guy that graduated from Ted Bundy's Rapist Academy of Performing Assaults.
I've thought about her every day since we've parted.
She covered the cameras. I don't think she liked me watching her.
I'd much rather dream about Padme. You're exactly the way I remember you in my dreams. I can sense everything going on in that room.
I'll be with the people that I love. We could keep it a secret. Your presence is soothing.
Their relationship blossoms as Anakin is appointed to protect her. There's an assassination attempt on Padme and they decide to hire the guy they are scared of to protect the damn senator. They've done nothing but say they sense evil inside him, so hey, let's trust him to protect the important senator. What's the worst that could happen? Coming up next, Adolf Hitler is now the Queen's bodyguard. In fact, they even have a scene right after.
He is not ready to be given this assignment on his own yet.
The Council is confident in its decision, Obi-Wan.
The boy has exceptional skills.
This entire time, Obi-Wan has been defending Anakin, and the Jedi are like, no, he's evil, and now for no reason whatsoever, they completely swapped. They also say it's a prophecy for Anakin to bring balance to the Force, but they never actually say how. It's just a cool-sounding line, so it doesn't matter if it's vague and makes no sense. The thing is, some have said he's socially awkward as he's grown up isolated and isn't used to interaction, but he's not. Firstly, he grew up to the age of 9 around people constantly. You'd kind of have a point if he was born isolated or left when he was a baby, but it's not the case. Secondly, he's been around Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council and going around people for 10 years. Where's the isolation? He's had to distance himself from his mother, but that's it. There's literally no indication in the movie that he's been isolated other than his mother. Now, this could work if they met for the first time in this film. Padme could be the first female he's ever met, and thus he gets attached too quickly and comes across as creepy. But it's not. They say that he loved her when he was 9. You were 9! You only love orange juice and Peppa Pig. Shut up and do your homework. But even if I were to accept that this is the excuse for him being creepy towards her, he never once actually pays the consequences for these actions. Not once has it acknowledged that he's being creepy. Not once has it acknowledged that he's being toxic in his behavior. In fact, she literally tells him that he makes her uncomfortable and he smirks like a serial killer, and we're supposed to like him at this point.
Please don't look at me like that.
Why not?
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Sorry, milady.
And the issue is, Padme isn't exactly innocent in this either. It's forbidden for the Jedi to have relations, let alone with royalty, so Padme rejects his advances numerous times. However, she still hangs around him. She proceeds to wear more and more revealing outfits. She rolls around with him in a field. She clearly leads him on and then gets mad and confused when he doesn't understand what the hell she wants. It's an incredibly toxic relationship. And the thing is, it's not even a transitional piece. Couples like Buffy and Spike are toxic together, but they grow over time for the toxicity to disperse and for their actions to be redeemed. But here, it never happens. Neither of them get taught a lesson for their awful actions. Neither get punished, neither change. There's no growth on either side. There is quite literally absolutely no reason for them to love one another. In the last film, it was clear that Padme was a mother figure to Anakin. It was obvious that he did not have any feelings towards her besides a son's love for a mother figure. But here, she shows up, he's a creepy bastard who stalks her, harasses her, forces a kiss onto her, and then blames her for it.
I'm haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me.
And the next thing we know, they're rolling in a field. Then she rejects him some more, and then she says fuck it, and they're in love. There is not a single scene in the entire movie where Anakin gives her a reason to love him, or vice versa. He's just horny, and she's just bored, I don't know.
She hardly even recognized me, Jar Jar.
It's been 10 years, what do you expect? They also have no chemistry. Every scene together is so awkward. I would say they seem like brother and sister, but most brothers and sisters are close. These two come across as a couple who used to date, but are now forced to do love scenes together. It's so awkward and cringy. It'd be like casting Tim Allen with Oprah? That being said, I don't fully agree with the hate on Hayden Christensen. Here, he's hesitant about his feelings for Padme, and he actually does deliver it quite well. He's twitching, and it's obvious he is uncomfortable and nervous, and it is actually pretty good. It's just the dialogue that ruins it.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. If Master Obi-Wan caught me doing this, he'd be very grumpy.
Then again, they should have known he was a serial killer. Man eats a pear with a knife and fork. I am convinced that since George Lucas has clearly never spoken to another human being before, he's also never interacted with a woman online either. This love story isn't love. It's written by what a 12-year-old thinks love is.
I wish that I could just wish away my feelings, but I can't.
I've been dying a little bit each day since you came back into my life.
What are you talking about?
I love you.
I thought that we had decided not to fall in love.
At least in 50 Shades or Twilight, there was some reason for them to like each other, even if it was just they're hot and have money. Natalie Portman is trying her best, but the script really doesn't give them much to work with. Furthermore, Padme constantly tells Anakin that he's grown up, but there's no indication that he has. He's a whiny little baby. And I get it, he was a slave who was taken away from his mother when he was 9, and then she dies in this one. Who wouldn't be miserable? But this is the origin story of Darth Vader, one of the coolest supervillains in history. There is a line between angel and whiny pussy. The way to do it would obviously have Anakin act like a rebellious dickhead who acts out because of his loss. He could have been a badass, pushing people away, or even acting like a bad boy, doing whatever he wants, giving the middle finger to the Jedi, which women like. A badass Jedi that Padme then notices and suddenly sees in a different light and falls for him. But instead, he acts like a 10-year-old brat.
He's overly critical. He never listens. He doesn't understand. It's not fair. It's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous.
He's a few years older than I. Very cute. Dark curly hair, dreamy eyes.
All right, I get the picture. Whatever happened to him?
Regardless of the way we feel about each other.
Then you do feel something.
I've gone over this in the previous movie, but it becomes an even bigger problem here. George Lucas still has never spoken to a human being and still can't convey characters' motivations or emotions without literally having them say it, despite nobody actually talking this way.
I don't sleep well anymore.
Because of your mother?
You've grown up.
We'll have to try something else. I do hope nothing's happened to him.
I love democracy.
Why'd she have to die?
Maybe I can find a diplomatic solution to this mess.
Don't let your personal feelings get in the way.
You're gonna pay for all the Jedi that you killed today, Dooku.
I have to admit that without the clones, it would not have been a victory.
In fact, it's another case of George Lucas never proofreading his own script.
Once again, you've proved if you'll excuse me. I hate it when he does that.
You literally did it 2 minutes earlier. So Boba Fett, you know, the guy who was in Return of the Jedi for about 30 seconds. Yeah, we gotta give him a backstory too. Everyone gets a backstory. Tune in next week to see the movie about the clown who was at Luke Skywalker's 7th birthday party and how he found out he was lactose intolerant.
Oh, yes, thank you.
But Boba Fett's dad, Jango Fett, is a bounty hunter who hires another bounty hunter to kill Padme for some reason. I mean, you could say it's to protect his son, but he happily takes him on mission, so that's not it. Is it to be stealthy and not bring more attention to himself? Because he uses a specific bullet that can only be traced to him and his home planets. Either way, it's stupid. But they're trying to kill Padme with worms. It's the most random way to kill a person, especially considering they have snipers. She's sleeping in a room with clear windows. She's easy pickings, guys. In fact, they yell at Anakin for taking Padme to Tatooine, but why? Nobody would ever find her there. Back home, you got her walking around unprotected. And how does nobody even notice Anakin is romantically involved with her? Nobody spots any of this? And this movie, again, is George Lucas attempting to be funny, but it's just painful and cringy.
What took us so long?
Oh, you know, Master.
I couldn't find a speeder that I really liked.
Although, okay, they do get a couple of laughs out of me.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
The opening chase scene just isn't interesting or exciting, it's just boring. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen actually do have quite good chemistry, and the acting isn't that bad, but the dialogue ruins it. It's just so unnatural and inhuman.
Why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
Ha 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 ha! The first movie focused on politics and it was boring then. But this one, my god, it's most of the damn film! There is so much discussion of the ins and outs of Dooku and the Clone War, but it is some of the most boring spiel I have ever seen. It drags and never seems to fucking end. You think we'll care if you get Saruman to say it? You thought wrong. This movie has more words than the John Benet Ramsey case file. Oh, and the whole Clone War begins because Padme is an idiot who literally leaves Jar Jar Binks in charge, and he's the one who passes the law. That could have actually been a really funny moment. A bit cliche, but the dumbass just goes and passes this law without realizing. But it's treated so seriously, they can't even do that right. I mean, if you're going to endorse mass genocide, might as well make it funny. Am I right?
Suddenly, I'm afraid.
This is my first assignment on my own. I am too.
I thought you weren't allowed to have fear. Although if the Jedi could sense the darkness in Anakin, why can't they sense the darkness in Palpatine or these douchebags? In fact, Palpatine came into power 10 years ago when all of this started, and he's the only one with enough power to build this army, so how the hell did they not figure this out? In fact, Yoda even questions it.
Blind we are. With creation of this clone army, we could not see.
But it's never answered. They say they're losing their force power, but then later on...
The dark side I sense in you.
Make up your mind! To be fair, Obi-Wan fights Jango Fett Unchained, and it is pretty cool. John Williams delivers with the score as he always does, but if you play a piano over a pile of dog shit, it's still a pile of dog shit underneath a piano.
I have to help her.
I'll go with you.
I'm sorry, I don't have a choice.
Well, you do. I mean, at this point, he has no reason to believe that his dream is a premonition. It's just a vague dream. You're given the duty to protect the senator. You're disregarding that to go and chase a dream that might not actually be real. In fact, Anakin meets his stepbrother who would ultimately look after Luke when he's born, but why would they risk giving him the baby knowing that Anakin met them? They're supposed to be protecting the child from Darth Vader. I know! Let's put him on Vader's birth planet with his stepbrother. He won't ever look there. Look, Padme's hair kind of looks like Leia's, and Anakin's shadow looks like Vader. It's clever! Although George Lucas admitted that this was actually accidental, so I can't even give him credit for that. So Anakin's mum gets killed, and it is actually really sad. Until her neck flops like a cartoon. Hayden's acting is actually really good here. Just don't let Lucas write his dialogue. He's pretty good until he talks. This leads to him slaughtering the entire Tusken Raiders race. Now, my problem is, this is treated as this inhumane act. He slaughtered everyone like animals!
I slaughtered them like animals.
He even specifies their gender.
And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too.
But Padme, when she finds out, doesn't react at all. Why is this all treated as so evil if they're just monsters? It's clearly a big deal that he killed kids. Why does he get emotional and specify that he killed some that had nothing to do with his mother's death? This should be a vital turning point for the character. But Padme doesn't even bat an eye that her boyfriend just performed mass genocide.
What's wrong, Annie?
What's wrong? His mother just died! What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong? We do get this factory scene that George Lucas literally wrote in his car on the way to the studio.
No, that's not possible.
To be fair, the scene itself isn't too bad. It does pick back up again, even if they do rip off Minority Report. And again, we know neither of them die because they've not had sex yet, so there's not a lot of suspense. And R2-D2 somehow has a jetpack that he didn't have in the original films. How do you mess up a timeline this much when this came first? C-3PO is hilarious though, as his head gets swapped with another droid, and they actually snuck in a real recording of Anthony Daniels on set.
It's a nightmare! I want to go home! What did I do to deserve this?
Padme is supposed to be the strong character, but we don't really see it at all. Maybe a bit more in the first one as she was doing everything to protect Anakin. But here, she gets owned by a damn bug. She only really shows skill in the stadium scene at the end, but by then it's a little too late. And Anakin gets cornered and forgets that he has magical abilities to help himself out. I must admit though, this scene is incredible. It's the first time we've seen so many sabers on screen like this. It's great to look at and it's a tremendous sequence.
The Jedi have amassed
amassed a huge army.
That doesn't seem possible.
Why are you surprised? You know the droids are literally built to kill all of the Jedi. So therefore, logically, the Jedi are going to have their own army. This shouldn't shock you. But by the end, it does look cool, but I've sat through 2 hours of no investment in what's going on, so it means nothing. At least Christopher Lee looks like he's having fun. I'm glad someone is. The saber duel is so dead. It's so dull and boring. I don't know how you make Christopher Lee boring, but they manage it. He even has a force fight with Yoda, but it's just an old man pointing at nothing. There's a part where a pillar is about to fall on Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Yoda uses all of his strength to stop it, instead of just using the force to move their bodies out of the way. In fact, he can bounce around the room everywhere. I'm sure he could run over and move their bodies in time, but he still needs a walking stick. And the ending drags. It just never ends. At least Return of the King had several issues to wrap up. This just keeps going and going and going and going. And oh look, they got to get married and going and going. The film is atrocious. It is so bad. One of the worst love stories I have ever seen, written by someone who's never been in a relationship before. Completely arse-numbingly boring, one of the worst scripts ever written, and okay, I really can't hate on the acting. Hayden Christensen didn't deserve the abuse he received. He was fine, he just got bad direction. I blame Lucas entirely, it was the dialogue that did him in. Hayden is a damn good actor when he's pushed in the right direction, and this wasn't it. Attack of the Clones is definitely the one to avoid.